Alright, hi guys, I'm back. It's still Sunday, 24th. I kind of felt like I just sort of left you hanging there without telling you the story of me when I was abducted back in, I think it was like 92 or something. Anyway, as usual, with most of these stories, I would have just been all too happy to just go to my deathbed and never bring this up, except for two, a couple close friends or something, tell them about some crazy things that happened to you. I mean, it happens to a lot of us. We have a lot of really interesting, crazy stories. But just, what's been happening to me, as you know, I'm disclosing so many things about myself, is once I started kind of searching not only, what's going on, but also what's happened to me in my past. I'm always trying to find a connection or someone else that's experiencing the same things that I'm experiencing. So, like a lot of times, I look up this subject of, in this case, UFO abductions and things like that. And that's when I found out there was a lot of cases in the 90s, a lot of people telling their stories. Now, but since then, what I've learned is not only has there been a lot of reverse engineering going on with ET craft and things like that by not only the U.S. government but the Russian government and other governments, including China. So to the point where they've got a lot of flying craft out there as well. So a lot of times you might think, you'll see a UFO and you'll think, oh, it's some sort of alien or something, but it's actually could very well be the secret space program's vehicles. One of them in particular is called the TR-3B. It was seen, I forget when it was like 2009 or I forget the story, but anyway, it was called the Phoenix Lights. There was one there, but it's basically just a big triangular shaped craft that's been somehow reverse engineered, and the secret U.S. military uses it. It's completely quiet, completely silent. Anyway, there's a lot of really interesting stories as far as that's concerned. So I'm going to basically describe what happened to me when I was abducted. At the time, as you know, I didn't even think of it as being abducted, except for there was a few strange things that just didn't add up. It was just really bizarre. Okay, so basically, most abductions happen when people are sleeping, and that was no exception for me as well. I was sleeping in my bedroom, and what happened to me in particular was I felt this thing come down over top of me. It's almost like it was smothering me, and basically it was like a blackout. I felt like it was something coming over my whole body while I was lying down. And then there's a thing called sleep paralysis, which all of us kind of experience anyway. It's where you can't move because your body is like in REM state or something. So it's almost like you're yelling and you go, oh, you can't do much. That's kind of what happened to me. But then I felt myself being lifted up, and that's why it always sounds so bizarre. Lifted basically through the house. Then I remember going through the attic and I smelled this old wood, and I think it was like sawdust or something for insulation in this old house I was in. Anyway, and then all the way out to outside, and that I felt the wind against me, whatever. Now this is the part where I don't remember, because they, just like the real Men in Black, I know this is going to sound bizarre and everything, they basically wipe your memory. So most people, when they have abductions, they don't have any memories of it at all. And it's kind of pretty much my case as well. I don't remember what happened after that, but what I do remember is when they dropped me off. And that's what really startled me. Because when I came back, I was probably at least 12 to 14 inches off my bed, just lying, horizontally like this. But I just remember waking up, being dropped in my bed. Literally just because I just went boom. And I woke up and I was thinking to myself, what just happened? What just happened? That was the strangest experience. And it was kind of fading away. The memory was fading away for that. And yeah, I just marked it up to like, maybe it was just a crazy dream, which most people do. Well, anyway, it was a week later. Pretty much the same thing happened. Or it maybe wasn't a week later, maybe about 4 days later or something. Whoever was doing it did it again. But for some reason, I guess my subconscious, I knew what was happening this time. So I was fighting it more. So again, I felt like I was being smothered. And this time, when they were lifting me up, I was yelling, but like I still had sleep paralysis. So it's like, I was like going, oh, so nothing's coming out, and I couldn't move my body. And I'm not sure if they somehow control your body. They probably do. I know for sure they wipe out your memory. But anyway, so I yelled so loud in my inside voice, whatever, finally it came out in my real voice. And I just said, no, I just basically said no, and I screamed out loud, and it sort of came out. And again, this time instead of taking me all the way up, they only had me maybe a foot or so off the bed again. And then they dropped me, basically. I got out of it that time. And again, I woke up just completely startled, like, did that really happen? It was just the most bizarrest thing. And I was just like, I looked out the window, and I just couldn't figure out. Well, I just forgot about it. And it was like just a crazy dream, and I didn't really take it serious. But the only time I started taking it more serious is when I did more research. And when I found out that this same sort of thing was happening to a lot of people around the world, especially throughout the United States. Like I said, in the 90s, a lot of people had similar stories. And as you know, most people don't tell these stories, so you don't really hear too much about them. But anyway, since the internet came out, obviously there's a lot more people telling about strange things that happened to them. Well, anyway, so now I'm telling you my story. Again, when I started researching it and finding out, well, the sensation I felt, especially going through the ceiling and stuff like that, how is this happening? And a lot of the stories that I was reading up about and understanding was these creatures would be coming through the walls and going through glass and everything. Well, since then, now I understand why. It's some sort of molecular tech that they have, which makes sense to me now the more I've been getting downloads as well too. But basically they're changing, everything vibrates. I remember I discussed this before, at different speeds. Everything that's matter vibrates at a certain frequency. So if you can match that frequency, if glass vibrates at this frequency, and you can take an object and change its frequency like this so it matches it, it can actually go right through it. So I mean, that's kind of how I understand it now. But I mean, at the time, it just didn't make any sense. And that's why, and the part where I was going through the layers of the ceiling and the roof and then going outside, that's probably what they were doing with me. And that's why this stuff is completely so crazy to talk about, that people just generally won't come forward with it. But as usual, I'm told to disclose more so you guys kind of understand what's going on out there, because it's not just me. Anyway, that's kind of a crazy story for now, and I'll update you with other stories, because there's a lot of other stuff that happened to me as well. But that's just kind of one bizarre story for now. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later this week.